Welcome back for another edition of Griz Tracks, and it is Griz-Cat week here at Griz Tracks. I'm AJ Missoulian of the Missoulian.
And I'm Bill Spelks, Griz beat writer for the Missoulian.
And I'm Bob Mesrall, the Missoulian sports editor.
We got a big one coming up this weekend. It's over in Bozeman as the Grizzlies take on the Bobcats for the 113th Brawl of the Wild. Before we get into that, we'll just breeze over last week's game with Weber State. Pretty one-sided and kind of, I guess, maybe a momentum builder for the Grizzlies going in.
Yeah, it was especially helpful to get the run game going again. That had kind of been a little bit stagnant in the previous 2 weeks. Although it's hard to tell how much that was the Grizz improving or just the opponent they were playing, because Weber has, let's face it, given up a lot of points and a lot of yards all season long.
An unfortunate and underwhelming season for the Weber State Wildcats down there. But a different kind of cat coming up this week as Grizzlies head to Bozeman. And Bobcats have been backpedaling a little bit recently. They've lost 2 straight over there.
They have. There's no shame in losing to Eastern Washington at Cheney. They were in that game until the third quarter, and then Eastern scored a couple of quick touchdowns, and they were off to the races. This last week was pretty heartbreaking, I think, for them, and not only because they lost the game, they got off to a terrible start, but the injuries are starting to pile up. And I talked to Coach Ash this weekend. He says he really has never experienced anything like this at Montana State with all the injuries. I know that Cody Kirk, for one, the real good running back from Frenchtown, has a knee issue, but he's planning on playing, so we'll see what they come up with this week.
Quite a few guys banged up. That game again was Southern Utah in Bozeman, kind of a snowy, nasty game where the Bobcats didn't get anything going until about the fourth quarter and came up a little bit short at the end of that thing. But let's talk a little bit about what the Cats are going to be bringing to the table. What do you expect for the Grizzlies to be seeing on the field?
Well, there's no question that it's hard to bet against Denarius McGee, the preseason offensive MVP. He did get hurt early in the season, but he's going to bring his best, and he's been one of the best in the league here for a few years. So it'll be tough to contain him. I think he'll run a little bit more than he has been running the last few weeks, and
he can do it with his arm or his legs. I know he's climbing the ladder in Big Sky's all-time passing. Ranks is right now and just around Dave Dickinson's area, I think.
Yeah, and last week was one of his worst games in his entire career, really, and you just don't see him having back-to-back games like that.
Yeah, it should be interesting for the Grizzlies to go down there. The winner of that thing is definitely going to the playoffs, and the loser we're still a little unsure about. The Cats may have knocked themselves right out with 2 straight losses, and now a potential third for sure. What do you see from Big Sky Conference heading into the postseason?
Well, both coaches are saying they need the win to get into the playoffs, and I'm sure there are scenarios where even Montana could be left out of the playoffs if they lose, if the Grizzlies lose, and if Southern Utah wins. I think Coach Delaney's worried about it because in the past they've never taken 5 schools, and obviously they've expanded the playoff field this year, so they're hopeful that they're going to take at least 4. But you don't know for sure. The one way that they can probably guarantee it is to beat the Cats, which they certainly have the potential to do that.
Big Sky has gotten very top-heavy this year. 5 teams, right up there at the top, led, of course, by Eastern Washington, which is going to be getting that automatic bid to the playoffs. But then right behind with 1 loss, you get Northern Arizona, and then all of a sudden the Cats and the Grizz and Southern Utah putting their name in the argument as well.
And I don't think anybody really knows for sure. I've seen projections where Montana State will be in the playoffs. Even if they lose, I don't know. That's a stretch to me. But I don't think anybody can say with certainty how the committee is going to take it, is going to play it out, especially with the expanded field this year.
Yeah, sure. And again, that's a real big game this weekend in Montana, but quite a few games around the Big Sky Conference that people will be looking at and watching as well as the playoff picture finally gets a little clearer. And check the Missoulian this weekend to see how the Grizz did against the Cats. And check back next week for Griz Tracks Online as we talk about the FCS playoffs moving forward. Thanks for tuning in.